yatraiva yatraiva manomadiyam tatraiva tatraiva tavasvarupam.
We shall first of all have a very short prayer. More than a prayer, it's also a benedictory note, a kind of an invocation. In our case, it's always presented before the teacher, the Guru. After that, whether you write a book or give a significant talk or even start a conversation, maybe a noble venture, everywhere there is always an invocation done. That invocation can be multiply various. Now today, to cut short our time requirement, I am presenting only a very small short prayer. Madhya Hridaya Kashe Sadanandamayo Guru Udetu Satatam Samyak Ajnana Timirarunaha. Generally, I chant 3 times Omkara after this invocation. Today I will do at least once. But it is not myself doing. It is all of us concurrently, collectively, and jointly doing. The purpose of the recitation is certainly to benefit the participant directly, first hand. But the object of this collective chanting recitation is with a mindset that the collective recitation spread the entire globe and its vibration be beneficial, benedictory to all the living beings upon the earth. See, this one invocation and after that this recitation, it should instantly expand your mind. The entire purpose of spirituality and philosophy is to dissolve the self, that selfishness in one, and generate and preserve the otherishness, the feeling for the others. We put it in Sanskrit in a beautiful manner, to dissolve the swarthada and to generate and enhance the pararthada. That is what all trees and plants and creepers are doing. All of them are existing, not for themselves, but for the sake of others. Similarly, the knowledgeable human, the good and the noble human, will make his life absolutely meant for the others. It is this that we want to accomplish through this short spell of austerity, collectively reciting Omkara. Biologically, it instills health into your heart, biological heart. It enhances its longevity, intensifies its health and well-being. Spiritually, it has tremendous potential to act upon the mind, intelligence and ego of man, all the three together constituting the inner personality of man, which alone employs our body and senses and goes on interacting with the world objects. I hope the idea is clear before you. Now we shall recite. I would like you to insert your fingers, interlock them and put them on your lap. Then sit comfortably erect, close your eyes and open the heart as well as the mouth and give a full recitation. Harihi, Harihi, Harihi. Would you like to do once more? Let us have it. Very good. Very good. I greet you all in the name of Bhagavad Gita message, wisdom, and what all it showers on humanity. The subject of our talk today is Bhagavad Gita's eternal relevance. I think all my viewers must be quite familiar with Bhagavad Gita. This was not the case a few centuries earlier. Nobody knew that there was a book like Bhagavad Gita at all. Now it has almost become like the commonly sung Ramayana and the less widely read Mahabharata and Srimad Bhagavatam, etc. What is this Bhagavad Gita that is before us? It's a part of the larger epic called Mahabharatam. Mahabharatam consists of 125,000 Sanskrit verses, and Bhagavad Gita consists of 700 verses from amongst the bigger lot. There are two enquiries in Bhagavad Gita as it is before us. The opening verse itself is an enquiry presented by the blind king Dhritarashtra to Sanjaya. Sanjaya was giving a narration of the war incidents after Vyasadeva gifted him with a very special vision, with a special power, by virtue of which he was totally insulated from the war exchanges. He was free to go everywhere, invisibly, and witness everything, directly in the battlefield as well as in their war camps. Everything he could know and come and narrate to the blind king. The king, when he was asked by Vyasadeva, his own biological father, would you like to see the war incidents? Then I will give you a special vision. He said, no, I don't want. Which father will be interested in seeing his sons fall dead one after the other in the battlefield? So I cannot afford to see it. I don't want it. Then he made a substitute arrangement. Equipped and enriched Sanjaya, a trusted counselor of the blind king. Now you go and see everything and come and report it to the blind king. He started the narration. As the narration was in progress, where he was mentioning about what is this important and holy land called Bharat? What are the huge mountains, holy mountains in the land? Which are the rivers? Which are the holy places, etc.? The war suddenly began in the battlefield. So he stopped the narration and went over there and got involved for about 9 days. On the 10th day, hit by Arjuna's arrows, Bhishma fell from the chariot. A scene, an instance which nobody could expect and nobody was prepared to accept. When this happened, Sanjaya was totally unnerved. He thought, I should inform the blind king about this. So he rushed there and he goes there and announces his identity. He said, I am Sanjaya. Sanjayo ham Maharaja. Namaste Bharadarshabha. I prostrate before you. Our great grandfather Bhishma has fallen from the chariot. Fallen from the chariot. Fallen. Was. The blind king Dhritarashtra was more flabbergasted. He could not hear it. He could not hear anymore. So he presented a number of thoughts and reactions that arose in his mind on hearing whatever has happened in the way of Bhishma falling. He was unable to contain himself. And while Sanjaya was giving news one after the other, he stopped him. And he said, stop. I am not now interested in listening to your war narration. You are saying that Arjuna hit the grandfather and he fell from the chariot. This would not have taken place all of a sudden at all. Bhishma was so much fond of the Pandavas. He had no enmity. He was fighting on the side of Duryodhana, but he never wanted to hurt or destroy Pandavas at all. In fact, he was blessing Yudhishthira before the commencement of the war. When Yudhishthira went to take his blessing, fight, fight, fight. and win. Win. Don't ask me to fight on your side. Ask for any other blessing. Then he said, fight on Duryodhana's side. Yudhishthira said, but bless for my victory. He said, yes. Can you imagine a mindset like this? My dear souls, you are asking me, what is this Bhagavad Gita? This is Bhagavad Gita. It gives you. It cultures and refines and reforms your mind. It enriches your mind to such an extent that there was a Bhishma, a great mind, which was able to stand on Duryodhana's side, but which was prepared to say, I bless you, because Duryodhana is wicked and his cause cannot be put to victory at all. So including myself will be lost in this war. Can a human mind rise to this kind of a dimension? Will you please think about it for a while? You only have a conventional mind, with likes and dislikes, filling it to the core, overflowing with likes and dislikes. Even the members of the family, they do not like each other uniformly. They have also likes and dislikes, love and hatred. Now there is a way, a human way, a dignified way of living whereby likes and dislikes can be moderated, sublimated, assimilated, and selfized, so to say. I am using an expression, selfized. They go to their very source they go to. This can be done. And Bhishma is representing the acme of this inner sublimation, enrichment, perfection, and harmony. That is what Bhishma did. So he said, who said? Dhritarashtra said, stop. Before fighting was started, was there any exchange in the battlefield of Kurukshetra to the effect, how can we fight Bhishma and Drona? He is our grandfather. One is a teacher. The moment we see them, we should prostrate before them and seek blessings. Instead of that, we have now to fight them with the sharpest of arrows. How can this be possible? Did not such a doubt occur to Pandavas? My sons are wicked, but Pandavas are noble, great, lofty, benevolent to the core. So I would like to know, before the commencement of the war, the discharge of arrows began, was there anything like a spiritual, moral, or an ethical dialogue? After all, Krishna was a charioteer along with Arjuna, and as a charioteer, whenever Arjuna, the fighter, had any problem or difficulty, the charioteer, depending upon his wisdom, was supposed to give him very good counseling. So did anything like that happen? I would like to know. So he arrested Sanjaya's narration and put forward this question. This is the first inquiry in Bhagavad Gita. Tell me whether it is related to life or not. That is why I say Bhagavad Gita is fully relevant and eternally relevant. It deals with the problems of life. It deals with the problems and agitations of the mind, the doubts of the intellect, and settles and clears everything and gives you a stable personality with composure, with self-seatedness, with magnificence, with elegance, majesty, and profundity. These are words, all of them are qualifying your mind, your intelligence, your inner personality. None of them refers to your body or house or any other belongings. We are using a number of words. All of them are adjectives of the mind, adjectives of the intelligence, maybe adjectives also of the beautiful, refined, and sublimated ego. Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre Samaveda Mamaka Pandavaschaiva Kimagurvata Sanjaya. My dear Sanjaya, my people, as well as Pandava's people, went to the battlefield of Kurukshetra, you said. They assembled there. They went there with a view to fight. But did they suddenly take to fight? Or did anything happen there? You have come and reported to me on the 10th day that the great grandfather, most adorable, venerable, honorable, unimpeachable, that great grandfather has fallen from the chariot. This is something incredible. This instance would not have taken place at all so easily. So there must have been something before it. The subject should have been discussed. The reluctance of Arjuna, the confrontation he felt, the difficulties he had. This matter should have become a subject of discussion. So did it become? If so, what happened? So let me know now. This part of the whole developments in the battlefield, before you start narrating to me the actual events of war, I have no mind to bear the impacts. Arjuna also must have had problems. So let me first of all have that spiritual dialogue, if it transpired there. This was the first inquiry. Tell me now, what does this inquiry suggest? Does it not clearly tell you that the discussion on Bhagavad Gita, in Bhagavad Gita, is on the human life, the interactional life of human beings. All the problems that the mind generates or feels, and all the solutions that the intelligence offers, all in a spiritual and elevated background. Sanjaya started explaining what all took place there. The first two words of Bhagavad Gita are very important. Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre. Would you repeat it along with me? Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre. He does not say Kurukshetra. Kurukshetra is the name of the battlefield. It is about 145 kilometers away from the capital of India, New Delhi. It is being given a lot of importance and historic relevance now, and the whole place is being built up. And I am sure in the coming few years it will become an international center, a great pilgrimage with a lot to tell the whole world. Dharmakshetre. It was not merely a piece of land. It had an ascetic background and legacy. Kuru, the ancestor of the whole dynasty, Hastinapura dynasty, did long penance there, as a result of which the whole place had become very sacred, holy, ascetic, and austere. In an austere place, whatever takes place, tell me whether it will be austere or non-austere. The Mahabharata war also was an austere event, more than a fighting event. Today, after 5,158 years, where are we now? We are not with the war, but we are with the Bhagavad Gita, the dialogue. The austere part of the whole episode that took place there. The rest is all forgotten. It is only in the annals of the historic record, but Bhagavad Gita is vibrant in our bloodstream. Understand it. Sanjaya started narrating saying that, first of all, after the assembly of both the armies, and all of them were properly, orderly put, then Duryodhana suddenly marched forward, bypassing the commander-in-chief, his grandfather. He went to Drona and started speaking almost in a very high-handed manner. Not in a manner a disciple or a student will talk in front of the teacher or the preceptor. The talk became very aggressive. Drona was the teacher. Bhishma was the grandfather. This Drona was appointed by Bhishma to teach the Hastinapura children, the princess. Such a person, instead of falling at his feet and asking for any advice, any consultation, he started giving him instruction one after the other, and finally concluded saying that, I don't want my dear teacher, you to take any initiative in the whole war. Protect my grandfather, that's all what I want. When my grandfather is there, nothing else is required. When it came to this climax, Bhishma roared like a lion and then blew his conch. Bus, it started. The whole of the Kaurava army started producing all kinds of sounds that they had. And in return, the commander-in-chief of the Pandava army did not speak a word or take any step. He said, Bhishma is such a great man. I have been put here as a commander-in-chief, but I am nobody before him. Then Krishna took his Panchajanya and blew his conch. All the others started following, and only conches were blown. And Sanjaya says, the conch blow arising from Pandava's side filled the earth and the heavens. And they rent the hearts and minds of the Kaurava army, he says. On the other hand, the other sound was tumultuous, that's all. It had no impact on the Pandava team. Here it is the other way around. I am telling you all this because Mahabharata war is a Mahabharata war. It is unparalleled even now. And see how the subtle forces of nature, the legacy of the very land, is favoring Pandavas and disfavoring the other team. This happened in every move in the whole episode. Every time this has happened. Then, after the blowing of conches by Pandavas, discharge of arrows alone was to take place. But just before that, Arjuna said, oh, Krishna, wait. I want to inspect the armies and find out for myself who all are assembled here. With whom do I have to fight specifically? I have to decide upon my strategy. Therefore, take my chariot in front, station it in a proper point so that I can examine the armies. Krishna was so happy. The first time he has got an order from Arjuna and he wanted to execute it in a manner that was beyond the expectation of Arjuna himself. So he drove the chariot, the horses galloped very fast, and when they reached in front of Bhishma and Drona, he suddenly stopped. And the chariot stopped. He looked at Arjuna. Arjuna, I have stopped the chariot as you have ordered. Look at the whole armies. And whatever examination you want to do, evaluation you want to make, do. Arjuna looked at Bhishma, Drona, so many relatives, friends, well-wishers, elders, and who not. All of them. He suddenly got unnerved. Gandiva, which he had lifted up before telling Krishna to drive the chariot, it started slipping from his fist. Can you imagine? What? Can you imagine? What does it indicate? Any extent of physical prowess that you have will not be sufficient to meet the challenges of life. Human life is meant for various kinds of interaction with the objects and people of the world. In the course of the interaction in life, physical strength will not be ample sufficient. That's not at all sufficient. His whole body trembled. Mind started whirling. Mouth went dry. And the intelligence said, don't fight. This is a sinful war. Tell me now, my dear souls, what is left aside in a human personality? Gandiva was his material acquisition that fell. Body trembled. Mouth went dry. Mind started whirling around. And intelligence said, no, don't fight. This is the personality Bhagavad Gita presents Arjuna as before us. Then Arjuna goes on saying, making a confession, Dushtve swajanam Krishna yujutsum sabhupastidam sidanti mamagatrani mukham cha parishusyadi vepathuscha sharire me romaharshascha jayade ganvivam samsade hastat prochaiva paridahyate nacha chaknomyavastadum pramadeva jame manaha nimittani ja pashyami viparitani Keshava. Even wrong omens I am seeing. I cannot fight this war. He started speaking the language of retreat. Retreat, retreat. Thank God that Krishna was there. When you take one step towards God, God will follow it instantly with at least 2 or 3 steps towards you. Krishna was waiting for an opportunity of this kind. 13 years Arjuna had spent. During none of these years, Arjuna had anything to inquire from Krishna. He had something to ask for only here, now, not until now. So Krishna was very happy, very happy. He admonished Arjuna. Kutastva kashmalamidam, vishame samupastidam. What is this that you are saying? This is a battlefield. Here people are supposed to fight, fight, fight. That is what every one of the army people has come here for. It is specifically to fight and for nothing else. Either they kill the opponent or get killed by the opponent. Nobody wants to go away safely from the war field except after winning the war. So you are misunderstanding. There is nothing like sympathy called for. You have come here. So show the spirit of adventure, the spirit of resoluteness, the spirit of chivalry, the spirit of commitment and resolve, not for anything else. Arjuna suddenly became, I can say, to some extent at least, illumined. After all, Krishna was a dear friend of his who always was assisting him, helping him for whatever he wanted to do, even out of the normal rules. So Arjuna had to agree and he said, okay. So the first part of this gospel is this. Klaibyam asmagamah partha naidatvai upapadyade sidram hridaya daurbalyam chatrotishta varandava. Klaibyam asmagamah partha naidatvai upapadyade. Do not undergo the unmanliness, weakness or imbecility like this. This is not suitable. This is not becoming of a heroic person like you. So cast aside your unmanliness and get up with a resolution to fight. Resolution to fight. So what is the message of Bhagavad Gita up to now for us? It tells everyone, do not be unduly lamenting upon life. Before any challenge the world puts up, any challenge that the world puts up, never plead inability. Be heroic, be valorous, be adventurous. Speak the language of courage, greatness, wisdom, vision. So many people have lived in this world and so many are going to live. Nothing is there newly in life. Whether it is good, bad or indifferent, something similar has already taken place. You know how many people have died in this world? Quite a large number. And how many are living? A very small proportion. We are not to be afraid of anything. For everything, the problem is created by the mind and the solution is generated and offered by the intelligence. You are gifted with the mind and the intelligence. Arjuna recovered to some extent and he said, I will not speak a word of sympathy. I have understood my wrong. But there is a moral and an ethical question before him. What is that? You have stationed my chariot, Krishna, right in front of Bhishma, my grandfather, and Drona, my teacher. All the skill that I have for fighting, I have imbibed from Drona. And am I supposed to use it against him? What kind of a conscience will allow it? Will the human sentiments permit such a course of action? And Bhishma, who is fond of us and for whom I am respectful always, how can I meet him with pointed arrows? Is it possible? I understand that I must fight I shall perhaps also fight. But how is the question? So, the sentimental and emotional Arjuna now becomes rational and reasonable. This is what Bhagavad Gita does for you. It elevates you from the depressing emotions to the elevating reason, understanding, knowledge and inquiry. Elevation from the mental plane to the intelligence plane. That is what Bhagavad Gita accomplishes for us. Don't you think this is a requirement for every one of you? Most of you are abroad. You have gone there because of your intellectual merits, understand. This intelligence must be superb in you at every point of time. Before the intelligence, everything is a point of understanding, inquiry, wisdom. The intelligence is the highest faculty in a human. Highest faculty. We have got 4 levels of activity. The physical and the sensory one. Then the oral one, the articulation. Both of them are visible. Then we have the mental activity and the intellectual activity. The man of intelligence is considered to be the superb human. Now we have to rise to the level of intelligence. Krishna was speaking from where? From where? From the stock of wisdom that he had. Through the intelligence that he has. He was trying to activate the intelligence of Arjuna so that the problems of the mind will disappear and dissolve into himself. This is how Bhagavad Gita works. Arjuna continues to say, I am not able to think of fighting with Bhishma and Drona. Now, can you not avoid them in the warfare? You are a skilled fighter. So never confront them. You get into, pierce the army, destroy all the others. When Bhishma and Drona are left aside finally, prostrate before them and then say, I will not fight you. No, that is not possible. Because they are standing in front. They will not allow me to penetrate into the army without confronting them and subduing them. So that is not possible. So, Krishna, I don't know whether I shall fight and win or whether I shall fight and lose. I am unable to think. And he makes a confession. What is that confession? Karpanya dosho bhagata swabhava prichhami tvam dharma sammudha cheta yat shreyasyan nishchidam bruhitan me shishyasteham shadhimam tuham prapanna. My dear souls, are you with me when I talk? Every one of you is an Arjuna or should be. Today I anoint all of you as Arjunas and then give me the position of Krishna. I have already taken it. Karpanya dosho bhagata swabhava. I understand, Krishna, that I have been overpowered by Karpanya dosha, narrow-mindedness, as you said. I am asking you, dharma sammudha cheta. I am deluded with regard to what is proper for me, to fight or not to fight, to escape or remain here. Yat shreyasyan nishchitam bruhitan me. Yat shreyasyan nishchitam bruhitan me. How to explain it to you? Will you all be with me when I explain? Mind you, it was a battlefield. Even in the battlefield, Arjuna was inquiring, Yat shreyasyan nishchitam bruhitan me. What will give you the supreme good of human life? It is actually nishreyasa, supreme felicity. Felicity. How can I get supreme felicity in human life? Shishyasteham shadhimam tvam prapannam. I am your humble disciple, not a fighter, not the brother-in-law. I am a simple disciple, a seeking, simple seeker. And I place you in the pedestal of my teacher. As a teacher will instruct the students, similarly as a preceptor, you instruct me, the disciple. This is what he said. He also said, don't tell me, Krishna, somehow you fight. If you win, you will get the kingdom. If you lose, you will get the heaven. Don't tell me all this. My whole body is scorched by the sorrow that I have in my mind. The senses are being scorched. I cannot bear them. Where is the question of taking back by bow and arrow and fighting? That's not possible. So unless you are able to cool me, comfort me, take away my sorrow, nothing can be done. So what Arjuna wanted, what? A beautiful dialogue with Krishna, as a result of which the graceful, the enchanting and the illumining words of Krishna will be able to penetrate into his heart and mind and redress all the grief and torment that he was suffering from. That is what he wanted. And he stopped. Now Krishna starts. I would like to describe Bhagavad Gita in three phases. One I have already told you. The discomfiture of Arjuna and the demand that he made. The second is the crux of the advice or instruction that Krishna gave. Number two. Number three, the whole construction and composition of the world in which you are living and conducting your activity. Krishna's will be as an exposure of the soul in man. And thereafter he will say, the entire universe is a constitution, a composition of nature. Everything is done by nature. Nothing is optionally done by man. Even the so-called option is provided for by nature and the three gunas the nature has. So understand this. Then you will never have any confrontation whatsoever. This is the message of Bhagavad Gita. The first part I have presented. The second and the third also I will present, possibly today or tomorrow. So I am wondering whether I should tell you about the second part and then take up some questions. See, the setting of the Bhagavad Gita is very clear to you. It is quite different from the Upanishadic settings. In the Upanishad, a seeker solitarily goes to the forest, to the hermitage of a saint who has been living here for quite some time, and then submits his inquiry. And the teacher and the student, the guru and the shishya, they start discussing the subject for maybe days, weeks, months and more. It was purely a process of inquiry and enlightenment. But in Bhagavad Gita, it is not so at all. What have I described before you? I have described before you what? The actual war scene and the war inquiry. Suddenly, Arjuna raised a spiritual inquiry. Anywhere and everywhere you work, you have a right to inquire about life and be told of the supreme truth. The spiritual inquiry can be done by anyone at any point of time, no matter where he is, what he does, what is his profession, occupation and involvement are. So that is one part. When such an inquiry is made, what will be the answer? The Upanishads tell us that the student goes to the teacher, makes his inquiry, and it results in a conversation which is in the form of almost a study and analysis, a discussion and whatnot. Here also it is a discussion, no doubt, but different. This discussion is with regard to war. Arjuna had to be told whatever was to be told in such a manner that finally he will take up his gadgets and fight. So the focus is activity, involvement and interaction. I would like you to be very attentive to absorb what I am going to say next. What is that? Sri Krishna elevated the mind of Arjuna to a level of reason, inquiry and logic. So he decided to make Arjuna's intelligence apply to introspection. And what was the subject of introspection? The very grief that he was suffering from. Nahi prapashyami mamapanudya yachogam uchoshanam indriyanam avapya bhumavasapatna mruddham rajyam suranam api chadipatyam. He finally concluded with these 4 lines. So he says, Ashochyananvashojastvam prajnavadamscha bhashase gatasun agatasum sya nanusho janti pandita. See, Krishna has made grief itself as the subject of introspection for Arjuna. Is there any grief? Is it right to grieve? We are not in a battlefield and we are not going to fight at all. I agree. But now I cannot say we are not in a battlefield. Our life itself is a battle. And for the moment, it has proved to be a tremendous battle. But a bloodless war. Bloodless war. No weapons are employed by us and we don't have a weapon. Still we have to fight. What is this fight? COVID-19 fight. The Kurukshetra war was only restricted to Kurukshetra. But the Corona war is widespread in the whole world. How are you going to fight? The first defense is social distancing, wearing the mask. That's only physical. But even to do these physical disciplines, denials, don't you think the mind and the intelligence will have to be very careful and attentive? Our whole body is inert, insentient. It has to be employed by the mind and the intelligence. So even to wear a mask, the mind should be alert. The intelligence should be sufficiently sensitive. We should not do things which are forbidden. We should do only such things which are permitted. So we are actually fighting a war. How many people are dying in this world? And what is the threat before us? Tell me, where from will you get strength? The depth of insight, the loftiness of an attitude and resolve. Where from will you be able to generate it? Any kind of a resolve belongs to the mind. Any kind of an understanding and precaution, it has to come from the intelligence. So we are really in the midst of a global war. We don't have anything in the form of a vaccine, any weapon. We have not been able to find out. But we still have to. We will not yield. We will succeed. We will succeed. Provided you apply the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, the message of the Bhagavad Gita, the whole corona scene will become lighter. It will become more and more ineffective, less effective at least. This is what I have to say. So the message of Bhagavad Gita and the applicability of the message, I think, are all the more true now than any time in the past. This is what I have to say. So see how Krishna is proceeding. Ashocyananvashojastvam. You are grieving over those people who should not be grieved at all. Whom is he grieving over? Arjuna is grieving over Bhishma and Drona. Look, Arjuna, at their own faces. Do they have any difficulty? You are lamenting. You are aggrieved. But they keep quiet. Bhishma was the first person to raise a lion's roar and blow the conch. What does he mean? He was challenging everybody to fight his side. He was prepared. If you had a doubt, you could have gone to them, fallen at their feet and asked, I am not able to fight, but you have come here to fight. I am overpowered by sorrow, but you don't seem to have it. What is the difference between you and me? Let me be like you. Please give me instruction, you could have said. Instead of that, you talk like an enlightened man. As if I also don't know, Krishna is saying. This war cannot be fought. If we fight it, all of us will be eternally in hell. Nobody will be able to redeem us. This kind of a statement he said. So you talk like a scholarly person, a pandita, but you act like a miserable man, an ignorant person, a fool of the first order. Just imagine. You all feel that whenever we are aggrieved, we should come near you, pat your back and give you a Coca-Cola drink. This is what every one of you is thinking. Please drop your misgivings. Change your ideology. Correct yourself. We are born here. We are living here to live and continue to live. Life is a midterm between birth and death. Birth, we have never experienced, we don't know. Death, we are not going to know either. People say X has died. Is there anybody in this world who says, I have died? I have died. But still you refer to death. A death which nobody has experienced, a birth which nobody has experienced, we still continue to say, I was born and I may die. I was born and I will die. Which I? When born? Where born? Who saw it? If anybody has witnessed the birth of another person, including the hospital staff, it is only the birth of the body, my dear souls, not the birth of the living person. Challenge my statement if you can. Disprove it if you have the power to do so. Only the body is born. Body is not what lives. See, there is a flame. There is a wick and there is a flame. Do you mean to say the wick is burning? The flame belongs to what? Does it belong to the oil? Does it belong to the wick? Does it belong to the lamp? Or flame belongs to fire? The two are different. It is different from the wick, different from the oil, and different from the lamp. In the same manner that livingness is not an epithet of the body. The body is a mass, inert, insentient. That livingness, that living soul, that livingness, the spirit, was it ever born? Has it been seen as born by anybody? Similarly, has it ever died? So we are quoting two propositions, birth and death, both of which are not within our experience. What great fools are we? You answer me if you can. So, gatasun, agatasunscha, nanushojanti panditaha. The enlightened people will never grieve over either the dead or the living. Either the dead or the living. Suppose you grieve over the dead people, okay, you are grieving and they are gone. What about you and the others? You are going to die. So if you are grieving over the people who have died, on the same token, will you not have to grieve yourself over the living? Oh, you will die, you will die, you will die. I will also die, I will also die. What is this? What answer can grief give or produce? It's a question of understanding matters properly. You have come here to fight the war and you have to fight. Try to think in such a manner that fight will be enabled, not disabled. So it is a question of meeting the delusion of your mind, the weakness of the mind, the narrowness of your outlook. Think in a global manner. Think in an eternal manner. Think in a widespread manner. Think in an absolute manner. Krishna says, Natvevaham jadunasam natvam neme janativaha najaiva na bhavishyama sarve vayamadaparam. The whole Bhagavad Gita is centralized on this particular verse. Arjuna, I told you that the wise people do not grieve either over the dead or on the living. You know why? There is no death at all. There is no birth at all. Natvevaham jadunasam. There was no time when I was not. How many times shall I say this? There was no time when I was not. There was no time when you were not. There was no time when Bhishma, Drona and the others were not. And there is not going to be a time or a period when any one of us will not be. Do you agree that we are present? We are all existing. If we are existing and we are existence, can the existence ever be non-existent? Can the existence ever become non-existent? Can the fire become cold? Can the ice become hot? You tell me. Can anything change its original nature? So if something exists, it was existing. If it was not existing, how can it be existing now? If it was existing, it is existing. Can it ever stop its existence? So existence exists, and exists. It continues to exist. There was no time when it was otherwise, not going to be a time when it will be otherwise. This is the one message of Bhagavad Gita. Can you cling to this? It's an ample solution for all the problems of your mind. Ample solution for all the problems. Arjuna, you think that I was born of Devaki. Yes, something was born of Devaki. That is my body. I was not born. What made the body grow in a mother's womb? What made the fetus grow in the mother's womb? What was that presence in the cell, which started multiplying and forming all the different organs, organic structure in our body? There is something different. That different is what factor is what we call I. The child starts speaking I. I am 87 years old, I am running 88. I still say I. That I alone has not changed. All the others have changed. Millions and trillions of cells are destroyed in your body. They are also recreated invariably during sleep. After a few years, you will not have the body which you have now. In a week, it has already changed. If at all there is anything changeless and lasting, it is only the I, my dear souls. So, Arjuna, I am not the Krishna you think of, the body Krishna. The body alone was born of Devaki, bred by Yashoda. I is a reference to existence. One day the body will remain lifeless. Then also the body will remain, but the other factor will be missing. So understand that I am eternal. The I is a reference to that. This is what an enlightened man understands, realizes, and preserves in himself. That is a full solution to all problems and challenges and persecutions of life, all trials and tribulations. For everything, the strength should come from within. The inspiration should come from within. The enlightenment should come from within. It is to be probed into and found out using the mind and the intelligence. So employ your intelligence. Listen to what I say. Introspect over the message and discover the truth yourself and get all the qualitative enrichment that you want. This is how Krishna proceeded to discuss. I shall stop now.